Hello! So I'm going to start off with our problem, our exit question of Ariel. And this was only the second time you guys saw a word problem within like 8 minutes. So it is okay if you were confused at that point. Okay? So I'm going to work with you here. I'm coming up with two equations, two variables that would represent this situation. So right off in the first sentence, I can already see two things that would represent variables because it also comes back in the question at the end. So it says she bought several bags of caramel candy and taffy. So right there I have two things that we're talking about. And then it goes on to explain some things about those two things. And then the final question being how many bags of candy, which would be caramel candy and taffy, did she buy? So those are the unknowns. Those are what we don't know how much she bought of each one. So that's why they're going to be variables. So I'm going to say C is going to represent caramel candy. And then I'm going to let T represent taffy. It's up to you. You could have gone with X and Y, as long as you tell me what you are representing them with. And then once I get my variables, now I'm going to attach them into an equation. So this first sentence is already telling me something. So the number of bags of taffy was. So I already have taffy was, so equals 5 more than something, more than what? The number of bags of caramels. The number of bags of caramels, which is C. So there's one equation already. So my taffy is the same thing as 5 more than the caramel, which is what it says right here. Taffy was 5 more than the number of bags of caramels. So now the next sentence, actually the next two sentences, is going to give me the second equation. So it goes on and says taffy bags weigh 8 ounces each. Caramel bags weigh 16 ounces each. Do we know how many of each one we got yet? No. So my next equation is going to be 8 times the number of taffy bags that we get, because each one is 8 ounces. So I'm going to write that here. I have 8 times the number of taffy that I get, and caramel bags weigh 16 ounces each times C, because if I get one of them, it's only going to be 16 ounces. If I get two of them, I'd have to double 16. And then the total weight of all of them, so if I add my taffies and my caramels together, each being 8 ounces, 16 ounces, the total was 400 ounces. So I now have my two equations, T equals C plus 5, and 8T plus 16C equals 400. And then I could solve the simultaneous equations. So what we'll do now is actually solve a set of simultaneous equations, a different set. So here's one equation, and here's a second equation. So we practiced in class, and now you're going to practice with me. If you feel confident that you could get this on your own, pause the video, do the first couple steps, and then come back to the video. Remember, don't do the entire thing and then come back to the video. So play it every little bit. So my first step is to figure out which variable would be the best one to solve for. And I'm going to look for anything with a positive 1 in front of it. So if I have that, I'm going there. And I do see something with a positive 1. So you try and figure out which one is that variable that has a positive 1 as a coefficient. And it is not right there. It is not right there. That's negative 1. It is right here. So we are going to take this equation and we're just going to change the way it looks. So we're going to solve for this x. And in order to do that, it just takes one step. We need to get rid of this negative 3y, so I'm going to add 3y. And when I do that, this will be 0, and I'll just be left with x equals 3y and a minus 9. Or you could put negative 9 plus 3y. Same thing. I just like to keep my variables out front. So now I've taken this equation, I've kind of rearranged it, and I'm now using it like this. And the reason I'm doing that is so that I can substitute this quantity, 3y minus 9, in for what? In for x. But where? Well, into the equation I have not used yet. So I'm going to take this quantity and I'm going to sub it in for x in this equation. So right here. So I'm going to rewrite this as 2y minus, and instead of writing x, I'm going to write the quantity of 3y minus 9, because that's now representing our x. And that's going to equal 5. And again, what's nice about this equation is that I have one variable that I can figure out the value of it. So all I need to do is solve it. So I have 2y minus the quantity of 3y. What was that other part? You're probably telling me right now. Minus 9. And that's all equal to 5. So just making sure I wrote it down right. All right, so first step, first property I'm going to use is simplifying by using the distributive property. So I have this negative that needs to pass through here. It's really a negative 1, meaning I need to take the opposite of everything in here. So I'm going to have 2y, and instead of 3y, I'm going to have negative 3y. And instead of minus 9, I'm going to have positive 9. Alright, so you can just think of, take the opposite of everything inside the parenthesis. And now I'm going to use simplifying, combining like terms, because these can be combined. And 2 minus 3 is negative 1. And then from there, I'm going to use the subtraction property of equality, and I'll be at negative 1y equals, so I'm subtracting 9. 5 minus 9 is negative 4. And then I'm going to use the division property of equality, divide by negative 1, and y equals 4. And the problem, as you know, is not done, because we have two variables to solve for. We need to figure out what x is also. So if we have y, the equation I'm going to use, the easiest one to figure out what x is the one that's already solved for x. So I'm going to take that one that I circled a gazillion times, x equals 3y minus 9, and I'm going to plug in what I know y is. So y we said was 4, and if I calculate this out, my x would be 3. And now I'm done. Well, I'm getting close, because now I need to check it. All of your favorite things that you absolutely love to do. And you actually should enjoy it a little bit, because it should give you a little satisfaction when it actually works. Now you might be like, well, when it doesn't work, I get really mad. I'm like, well, yeah, because then you have to go back and you have to retry the problem. So we got x to be 3, x to be 3, and y to be 4. So let's try this. I'm hoping for the best. So y was 4. So I have 2 times 4 minus 3. So this will be 8 minus 3, which is 5. Yes! And then my second equation, plug in 4, plug in 3. Here we go, the anticipation. Negative 12 plus 3. And that is negative 9. So that's when you're really happy. Say, Miss Eberly, what do I do now? Well, just congratulate yourself, because you got it! And see you in class on Friday for the test.